Hi, welcome to another edition of the Safari Guy with me, John Harvey. And today I'm really excited to bring you our first ever interview on this show with a very special guest and a friend of mine, Nigel Crofton. So let's see if he's there. Hi, Nigel. Welcome to the show. Great to see you. How are you?
I feel very honoured, very honoured. I'm very well, thank you. All the way
Um,
from England.
all the way from England. Yeah, our very first guest on the show. Thank you so much. Um, today we'll take a slightly different direction to our normal show, and I wanted to talk to Nigel because Nigel is an icon in the safari industry. He's been doing this for a very, very long time. Nigel has a marketing company, representation company called the Outposts, which he will tell you about. But Nigel has travelled all over Africa, lived, worked, breathed safaris for a very long time. So Nigel, just maybe a little intro on you, your company, and what you do.
Sure, John. Absolutely. So I was born in Africa, as you know, in Malawi, the warm heart of Africa, they call it. I grew up there. And then I was a safari specialist operator in London for a few years in the 90s. Following that, I went out with Kate, my future wife, to Botswana to build a safari camp, actually, and then to guide and manage safari camps in Botswana for 2 years for wilderness safaris, Africa's largest and one of its finest safari operators. And then came back to England to start a family. And then 22 years on, so we set up Outposts back in 98, and so 22 years on, Outposts still markets in our view, the finest safari camps and private islands and beach experiences in Africa. And our definition, if you like, of the best is it doesn't necessarily mean the most luxurious, although all our clients are at the very top of their game in the safari industry. But the definition of luxury would be different to many people, and for us it would be a unique experience, something that you can't get elsewhere. It may be the level of luxury in the fixtures and the fittings of a lodge or a safari camp, but it goes far beyond that in terms of the experience that guests can get in each of our client properties.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as you said, you clearly work with the very best. You select the very best. How do you go about picking someone that you want to work with? How do you select your clients?
They actually select us, but we approach people who firstly, they have to have the right ethos. They have to give back the whole time, and that's fundamental. If we're not interested in a shiny out of the box lodge that frankly just greenwashes their business statements and doesn't really contribute a lot back to the communities that they operate with and around and contribute to conservation. So that's fundamental. Over and above that, it's down to a personality thing. We're not selling radiators or widgets. It's from the heart. So I have to feel it, breathe it, live it, love it, to be able to sell effectively. And it's more than selling. It's in our blood. It's in our marrow. So it's much more than just selling a model of car. You have to totally believe in it, right down to grassroots level. So yes, that's how it comes about.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know from my side, just taking bookings, it's easy to take the booking or to take the money. And I've seen representations company that have come and pitched to us, and they don't have that passion. And I really admire that in what you're saying, is that you stick with that throughout. And if times are bad, times are good, it's easy to get a high-paying client that doesn't fit in, but you absolutely stick with your ethos and what you're about. I love that.
Absolutely. It's so fundamental. It sounds. I don't mean this to sound in an egotistical way, but we've said thank you, but no to a number of quite well-known people internationally and in the safari industry, just because it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel like a fit. So yes, that's fundamental. And the relationships last for a long time. So Wilderness Safaris, one of our clients, I mean, we've been marketing them for 22 years. I mean, all our clients we've marketed really for kind of 10 plus years, 10 to 22 years. So it's so fundamental that it's not just it's not just a cheap sales job. It goes much deeper than that.
No, I can see that, and I've known you 15 years, and I can remember the first time you came into the office. I was working for a different company, and you presented, and I remember you presenting Wilderness Safaris, and I think I maybe saw you last year as well, and the passion, the way you present it, has not changed one bit in 15 years. That's incredible.
You're very kind, John. I mean, it's strange this format, because I'm like an excitable puppy. I bounce around. So sitting statically in a Zoom environment doesn't suit me well, but I'm trying to remain anchored, otherwise I'm going to lose my voice or face if you've got it on screen. So yeah, passion's everything.
Yeah, no, it is difficult in this format. It's not natural for me either, but I just really wanted to bring you in and share a little bit. So we've got a clip here from one of your clients in Kenya. I know you can't see it, but I'll let you introduce it. It's Sarara. And this particular clip is about 3.5 minutes long. It's a film about the Reteti story. So I'll play this in a minute after you've introduced it, and then we'll come back and chat some more. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that particular client and what this means to that area and the people in that environment.
Absolutely. I mean, any time I mention or hear the word Sarara, which is our client, the hairs stand up immediately on the back of my neck, and they are right now, because it's such a unique property / experience / area of Kenya. I mean, it sits in 850,000 acres, which is a huge piece of land, and it's called the Namanyak Wildlife Conservancy, and it's owned, although ownership not in our sense of the word, but it's the proprietors of that area are the Samburu tribe, who are warrior tribespeople related to the Maasai. They're cousins in the south and the Maasai Mara, but the Samburu people, 2,400 families live in this area, and they've partnered up with an organization that grew out of Labour Wildlife Conservancy. It's called the Northern Rangelands Trust, and it's a way that the communities can benefit from tourism and guests visiting them in terms of financing education, and it just enables them to live. And it's such an incredible experience, this, because you are with people in an environment that hasn't changed for millennia, literally. And you're with the wildest people, some of the wildest people you'll ever hope to meet, in a purely, totally authentic environment on a one-to-one basis. And Reteti is a part of this, it's a relatively new part of this story, whereby the Samburu warriors and their families kept on finding abandoned elephant calves or rhino calves or orphaned animals generally, and they approached the Kenyan kind of management team at Sarara Lodge, where guests can stay, and said, look, this is what we're finding, let's do something about it. So it was their initiative from the off. And they consequently have set up with the Kenyan management team Reteti Elephant Sanctuary, and it's the first it's the first locally run and managed elephant orphanage in Africa, possibly the world. So it's totally run by the Samburu, and a large part of it by the Samburu women. There's a real focus on empowering women in the Samburu community and in Africa generally. And so it's an extraordinary story from its outset. And then when you go and see it, and to see the individual, or hear the individual cases of adoption and release, it's very heartwarming. And Reteti is where the Samburu tribe bring in animals that they find abandoned. They might have been the parents or the mother might have been attacked by poachers, and the calf is just left in the bush, or they might have fallen in a well or a ravine, or however they come to them, or been attacked by lion or hyena.
Wow.
Then they come to Reteti, and they're just looked after, nurtured, and then rewilded. That's really important. I wanted to say that. So it's just a holding station, a safe place where these elephants can grow in strength, mingle with other orphaned elephants because they're very social animals, and then they're released back into the wild. They're rewilded soon afterwards. It could be a year afterwards. So that's it. So probably cut to the film, maybe.
Yeah, let's go straight in and have a look.
Welcome to northern Kenya. This is the home of the Samburu people. Here, I am surrounded by ancient footsteps. Robert is a Samburu warrior and my friend. He's taking me to Reteti, the first ever community-run elephant sanctuary in all of Africa.
Hey there, Dr. Chase, can I borrow your wings to fly above the elephants? Ride the wind around the mother of Africa.
20 years ago, Robert's homeland had lost much of its wildlife. Ivory poachers had decimated the elephant population. But these sentient giants are nature's great engineers. By voraciously eating the trees and brush, they kept the land open and grassy. Without the elephants, other wildlife, people, and livestock all suffered. At first, the Samburu turned a blind eye to the poaching because they were afraid. But in Robert's lifetime, he has witnessed a sea of change. Realizing the role these giants play, the Samburu are now the elephants' protectors. Day and night, Samburu rangers guard against poachers. And at Reteti, they raise orphans for release back into the wild. For me, this story is hopeful, and all over the world, wildlife needs us. The instant we help, the natural world pays us back 1,000 times over. This is a story about how deeply connected we are to each other and to the earth. It belongs to all of us.
Listen to all you people of the world. Come and see, all you people around the world. This is why your heart beats to the rhythm of Africa. Yeah.
I hope you will consider joining me in supporting these communities. Locally led conservation efforts like this one are needed all around the world. We need to empower communities and ensure they benefit from the nature and the wilderness that they help protect.
What a great video, Nigel, and just kind of ties in with everything you were saying there. I can see that how much the community is involved in that, and a beautiful part of Kenya. And I haven't been there yet, but I certainly will go there. We have some clients, I believe, that are going there next year, and you can't help but feel heartwarmed just by watching that video and that story. I wasn't aware that the animals were rewilded, as you said, so that makes it even more special.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting environment because it's a total mix of contemporary and modern with ancient, in that it's 100% solar run. This whole orphanage / sanctuary, they prefer the word sanctuary, is run using Tesla batteries. So it's totally Tesla battery powered.
Incredible.
And yet, yeah, and one thing that came out of lockdown, which is to the benefit of the sanctuary, I mean, all the revenue was lost because the revenue is from guests arriving and looking around the sanctuary. But more than that, the formula milk that they were using for the baby elephants, the tiny elephants that come in 2 weeks old, all that stopped. The supply chain stopped, and so they were left with this position of not knowing how and where to get food for these elephants. But what happened is that where needs must, they started using natural goat's milk. Nothing changed from that, just literally a natural goat milk formula straight out from the goat. And that has had immense effects, twofold really, in that the women control the supply of milk. I mean, in traditional Samburu culture, it's the women that milk the goats and they control the use of milk. And so the women now are being paid to produce milk and bring it to Reteti, which benefits them because the money goes back to the women of the community rather than some of the errant men. And the other thing is that the success rate of adoption and survival has increased markedly just by using natural goat's milk over very complicated formula milk. So it's a really interesting story that from lockdown.
Fantastic. I love it. Lockdown has definitely changed a lot in the world, but that's as you said, that's really interesting. Nigel, thank you so much for talking about Sarara. I can see that passion is there, and I know it's difficult for you sitting still when you're talking about it, but thanks for that. As I said at the beginning of this, we've become friends over the years. I've been down to your safari camp down in the southwest of England, and it was clear to me when I came down there how important family was to you, a close-knit family and community of friends. I also remember you telling me about a trip you took to Africa with your family, something I haven't done yet, and it's probably something that will stay with you and the family forever. Just tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good to have you at that party, John. It was fantastic. It was the trip from where we left from our front door. We walked out of our back door, not really knowing what was ahead of us, except for a huge dusty continent, with the aim of driving all the way through Europe, through Africa, to get to Cape Town at the other end. So we just closed the door behind us. 2 children, my wife, the children were 8 and 6 at the time, got into our Land Cruiser. Sorry, it wasn't a Land Rover. But got into our Land Cruiser and just headed south. Just kept on heading south, looking at the compass, and it was amazing. It was 8,000 miles. Sorry, 8 months, 25,000 miles.
Wow.
We arrived in Cape Town, and incredible. We drove through Europe, and then we made landfall in Tunisia. We spent a month in Libya, which was our highlight, incidentally. Incredibly hospitable people. We spent 2 weeks in the Sahara Desert and came across amazing sights of ancient paintings and engraved elephants and giraffe and crocodile in the middle of the Sahara from a time bygone. And then we found shark's teeth in the White Desert in Egypt. We drove through Sudan and Somalia and Ethiopia, Kenya, and all the way south, and many adventures. And and I think so much comes out of it, and it's all gone into our family psyche. But I think one of the things I wanted the boys to take from it is that we all end up in cul-de-sacs in life, places or eddies in life that we're going around and we're perhaps not, we're not fulfilling ourselves. And it was after 10 years of the business, and it was great, but I just wanted to change. And I just wanted to also give the boys the kind of the notion of feel the fear and do it anyway. If you're in a hole, don't be afraid. Get out of it. You'll always be all right. So don't get caught in these kind of life's eddies. And so I want that to be the messages to them, as much as everything that they saw. So it was a great trip.
Oh, fantastic, Nigel. And what I've loved also you've been sharing images of that on Instagram, especially I've noticed it over lockdown, and that message goes out to everybody, really. You know, it's easy to live in fear, and as you say, go down that cul-de-sac and you put the blinkers on and your vision becomes limited. But just looking at those pictures, and that inspires me as well. Remind me of how people can find you on Instagram. How do people find the Outpost on Instagram?
That's great, and thank you for the prompt. It's just the Outposts, on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, and on Facebook and Twitter. So please, anyone, because the adventure continues, and I post regularly every day. So yeah, thank you.
I know.
The Outposts.
Sorry, slight delay. I didn't mean to talk over you. The images are fantastic, and you share a lot of stuff from your partners as well. Everyone, just go take a look at Nigel's Instagram, the Outpost. It's fantastic. The wildlife, the camps, the experiences. Please take a look. Nigel,
I'll just spell it. It's the and then OUTPOSTS. There's an S on the end. Often people drop it. So the Outposts.
Thank you. So we'll wrap up soon, but thank you so much for the time so far. But before we go, I couldn't help but ask. This year has been pretty terrible. I'm bored talking about how terrible it's been. So let's maybe think about the future and what we hope next year will bring. I mean, there's no doubt the travel industry, people's lives have changed in one way or another. What do you see next year? How do you think things may pan out? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but how do you see next year?
It's a really good question. I think there's so much pent up demand to escape the cages that we're living in. There have been many missed kind of celebratory milestones that people have stored up that they want to celebrate for next year. So certainly next year and 2022 are going to be phenomenally busy when people start traveling again. I mean, incidentally, Botswana has literally just opened up today. It opens up, the announcement came out today. So Botswana is now open. It opens from the 9th of November. So if you are planning a safari, do this next year, particularly next year, where there have been a lot of postponements from this year, do book and inquire early, because the camps are small and personal and they fill up very quickly. So I think from certainly maybe Q2 all the way towards the end of the year, it'll be a very, very busy year next year and 22 for safari.
That's great news. And just yesterday we were looking at one of your partners, Wilderness Safaris, Basate Lodge, and I was trying to impress upon people that is a typical property that you represent. It's small, it's just got 6 rooms, it's booked a year in advance. So I think there is a little misconception that there will be deals to be had and Africa is empty next year. Yes, there is availability, but if you want to pick your dates and book your best trip, now is the time for next year and the year after. So Nigel makes a really good point. You know, get in now. You're not traveling now. You're making a commitment now to travel in the future, and now is the time. So let's get back into this. Let's support these camps and lodges. You can see how much it means in these areas. Without tourism, a lot of these people have absolutely nothing. So let's plan. This can't last forever. Let's get the trip booked for next year and the year after. Nigel, it's been sorry?
Yeah, just to add to that point, you're so right. I mean, most people don't know that each waiter or laundry lady or barman in a camp or a lodge supports 10 people in their community. So without the guests coming to the lodges, that money dries up. Those people lose their jobs. They go back to the village. There's no money coming into the village. The food dries up. There's no food. And so it's as fundamental as that. The quickest way to get money into the poorest parts of each country and into the communities is literally by you, thankfully, coming to the lodges to enable those staff members to be employed, and they send all their money back to the villages. So yes, thank you. Just by being there, you're helping enormously.
Absolutely, and we get that message across all the time. One last point. I know we could talk all day long, but just one last point. One of the questions we get asked a lot is how are the people surviving? How are the camps, the operators, the lodges surviving without the tourist dollars at the moment? Do you have any insight as to what actually happens or has been happening for the last 6 to 8 months to these people?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the money is still coming in, thankfully, through our clients. So, for instance, Wilderness Safaris, I mean, interestingly, in a normal year, they donate 12% of their entire revenue that they earn in a year. So that's $14.5 million each year. They contribute straight back to community and conservation. This year, they have done a huge number of food hamper drops. So I think 6,000 families alone through Wilderness, one of our clients alone, have been fed throughout the pandemic. Other clients are doing exactly the same thing. They're all continuing to pay their staff on a half salary basis. Other guests of our clients who know the staff well have volunteered payments. So the guests themselves are paying the staff back in the villages just to keep food on the table. So that's what's happening.
That's incredible, and that goes back to right at the beginning. It's testament to the clients that you choose to work with, the type of people that you work with, the camps, the lodges, and they're not just here to make a quick dollar when all is well. They're there when no one's traveling, and they're putting their own money back in to look after these communities. That's really important, and it's also something that we talk to our clients about if they can help. We've had some clients that have put their hands in their pockets and sent money to guides and families that they know personally, and it makes a massive difference. It really does. So that's great to hear, Nigel.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you. I'm definitely going to have you on here again. I know you've got so many wonderful clients we can talk about all day. I really love seeing that clip of the Reteti Sanctuary at Sarara, a wonderful place. Anybody should experience that at least once on a trip to Africa. So Nigel, love seeing your smiling face. Thank you so much for giving up time to do this. Anything you want to say, how people get in touch with you, or anything at all?
No, I mean, John is a fantastic guy. He knows Africa as well as anyone, and so you're in totally safe hands by booking through John and the Safari Guy. So, good luck. Nice to chat.
Thank you so much, Nigel. That's been Nigel Crofton from the Outposts. We'll definitely hear more from him. He represents some superb properties, camps, lodges in Africa and the Indonesian islands. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye-bye.